The Idea Gardeners. In the sprawling metropolis of Cognopolis, where thoughts bloomed like flowers and concepts grew like trees, there lived two peculiar gardeners, variety and diversity. Despite their nearly identical appearances, both tall, willowy figures with iridescent skin that shimmered with ever-changing hues, they tended to very different patches of the vast ideological gardens that sprawled across the city. Variety, with her kaleidoscopic eyes that never settled on a single color, lovingly cared for a wild and untamed section of the garden. Here, ideas sprouted spontaneously, growing in all directions without rhyme or reason. Religious beliefs intertwined with scientific theories, while philosophical ponderings wrapped around the sturdy trunks of ancient traditions. It was a chaotic beauty, where every conceivable notion had a place to root and flourish. Diversity, on the other hand, with her carefully curated rainbow hair, meticulously maintained a more orderly section. Here, ideas were planted in neat rows, each labeled and categorized. The paths between them were wide and welcoming, designed to accommodate visitors from all walks of life. Signs everywhere proclaimed the value of inclusion and representation, and diversity worked tirelessly to ensure that every type of ideological plant had its place in her garden. One day, as the sun rose over Cognopolis, casting a warm glow on the shimmering towers of thought that dotted the skyline, a peculiar seed fell from the sky. It landed right on the border between variety's wild growth and diversity's orderly plots. Both gardeners spotted it simultaneously and rushed to examine the newcomer. The seed pulsed with an otherworldly light, its surface swirling with symbols and images that seemed to shift and change with each passing second. "What a fascinating new idea!" Variety exclaimed, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "Let's plant it right here and see what grows." Diversity frowned, her brow furrowing as she studied the seed. "We can't just plant it without knowing what it is. What if it's invasive? We need to study it first, understand its nature, and then decide where it best fits in the garden." As they debated, the seed began to sprout, sending out tendrils of light that reached into both gardens. In Variety's section, it intertwined with the existing growth, creating new hybrid ideas that pulsed with vibrant energy. In Diversity's section, it neatly slotted itself into an empty plot, its light dimming slightly to match the orderly glow of its neighbors. Alarmed, Diversity tried to contain the growth in her section, erecting barriers and labels around the new plant. "We must control its spread until we understand its implications," she insisted. Variety, however, watched in wonder as the new idea cross-pollinated with the existing concepts in her garden. "Look at the beautiful new thoughts it's creating," she marveled. "This is how innovation happens." As the day wore on, more and more residents of Cognopolis were drawn to the spectacle. They gathered around the border between the two gardens, their own thoughts visibly swirling around their heads as they observed and discussed the new growth. Among the crowd, two figures stood out: Woke, a being composed entirely of ever-shifting text and hashtags, and Spirit, an ethereal form that seemed to flicker between various religious symbols and iconography. Woke approached Diversity's garden, nodding approvingly at the labels and categories. "Yes, this is how we create a more inclusive society of ideas," they proclaimed, their words materializing in the air around them. "We must ensure every perspective is represented and protected." Spirit, meanwhile, drifted towards Variety's wild tangle of concepts. "In the chaos of creation, we find the true nature of existence," they intoned, their form momentarily solidifying into the shape of a wise elder before dissolving again into mist. As night fell, the new idea had grown into a massive, shimmering tree that straddled both gardens. Its roots delved deep into the foundation of Cognopolis itself, while its branches reached towards the stars, each leaf a new thought or perspective. Variety and diversity stood together, gazing up at their joint creation. Perhaps, variety said softly, there's value in both our approaches. Your order gives ideas a chance to be clearly understood and appreciated. Diversity nodded slowly. And your wild growth allows for unexpected connections and innovations. Together, we create a more complete picture of the world of ideas. As they spoke, the citizens of Cognopolis began to mingle more freely between the two gardens. Woke and Spirit found themselves in a deep discussion under the branches of the new idea tree, their contrasting forms creating a strangely harmonious picture. In the days that followed, more seeds fell from the sky, gender pronouns that grew into flexible vines, wrapping around the rigid structures of traditional language, economic theories that sprouted as colorful mushrooms, thriving in the shade of larger ideological trees, scientific discoveries that bloomed as brilliant flowers, their petals unfurling to reveal new understandings of the universe. Variety and diversity learned to work together, combining their strengths to cultivate a garden that was both wild and orderly, chaotic and structured. They created spaces where rigid categorization could exist alongside free-form growth, understanding that both had their place in the ecosystem of human thought. The citizens of Cognopolis, too, began to see the value in this blended approach. They learned to appreciate the clarity that labels and categories could provide, while also embracing the unpredictable beauty of unconstrained ideation. Conversations between different schools of thought became more nuanced, with participants recognizing that every idea, no matter how foreign or challenging, had its roots in the same fertile soil of human creativity. As the idea tree continued to grow, its branches eventually formed a canopy over all of Cognopolis, uniting the city under a shared umbrella of diverse thoughts and varied perspectives. And in its shade, the gardeners and citizens alike continued to plant, nurture, and harvest the ever-evolving crop of human imagination. In time, the distinction between varieties and diversity's gardens blurred, creating a new landscape where order and chaos danced in perpetual balance. The citizens of Cognopolis came to understand that every idea, whether neatly labeled or wildly overgrown, was part of the grand tapestry of human understanding. And so, in this city of thoughts and dreams, the gardeners and their charges learned that true wisdom lay not in the rigid adherence to a single way of thinking, but in the ability to see the value in all perspectives, to find unity in variety, and variety in unity.